there's a really good video of me singing a Bob Dylan song at a pub in Sydney, getting heckled on YouTube.
Hello, hello.
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I believe Jack's joining us. He was just on, like, he was waiting for his Lyft driver or something.
Yeah. He just texted me saying he's gonna be. Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. I had my computer was built in 1985, it seems,
It's all
and
good.
I can't just do. When you just know, you're like, oh, this computer's. It might be time for a new one.
Right.
It's like
You're at that point.
yeah, just like you plug like a USB in. I was gonna like set up my interface so you'd have better audio, and then like the whole computer just goes. I'm like, okay, cool.
All good. I appreciate you being here. I wasn't sure if it was just gonna be Jack or if everyone's showing up, or it's good to be the two of you.
Yeah,
Or,
two of us.
cool.
Alex, the third guy, is I think currently on a plane back to Australia. So
Oh wow, no worries.
yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So this is a podcast about you guys and your journey in music. And we'll talk about obviously the new record and how you guys got to where you are now.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
So
How long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing the podcast since 2018, but I was on the radio. Actually, we've met before a while back. I used to be on a radio station in San Diego called 91X, and you guys did a.
We did the song. Was it the Wooden Studio?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that place.
Yeah. And well, you guys were supposed. I don't work there anymore. But yeah, I worked between that station and one in San Francisco for like 17 years. And then when the pandemic hit, this started doing, there's way more people that were willing to do interviews because I was doing it like once a week just as kind of like a hobby.
Yeah.
And the pandemic hits and no one's touring and no one's doing anything and they have records coming out. So I was able to just start doing this, man, full time. So it's been great.
Oh man, you're doing podcasts before they were cool.
Yeah. No, I know. It was random. I actually pitched it to that station. They're like, "No, we're good." And I'm like, "Here's a piece of paper. Do you mind signing this so I own the whole thing?" Yeah, you guys were supposed to play. I'll cut all the shit out because there's no point of it. But you guys were supposed to play our like summer festival, X Fest, with Beck and Death Cab, and then it got canceled.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, I think that was 2018, maybe. I think it's 2018. I can't remember exactly. Yeah,
it's weird. I've definitely done like a block of all things pre 2020.
Right. But yeah, man, it's good to see you again. Yeah, you guys did like 3 or 4 songs in that wooden studio.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that was showing up and we were exhausted because I think we were mid tour, I think, and then I think the day before we'd just done, or maybe like 2 days before, we'd just done something at a different like radio station acoustic set sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I can't remember the station, but I remember it just being like pretty like rough and like or pretty just like, they were like, oh, can you just do vocals and guitar? Like, oh, we don't own any guitar, like we don't have guitars. And it was all very like, my brain was prepped for just like, oh, we just have to get it done. And then we get there and it's like this amazing studio with like, everyone was super friendly, the engineers sick. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it's like world-class production sort of thing.
Oh, at ours or at that one?
At yours, yeah.
They had a pretty good setup going on there. I think you guys did it. Yeah, the wooden studio, because we were working with another person that was like right on the beach, and then he was getting booked up all the time, so we were able to make a deal with that guy at his studio. It was like called Phaser Control, and it was, that was a cool, like aesthetically it looked dope too.
Yeah.
So but yeah, man, and then like the pandemic hits and no one's touring and no one's doing shit, and that radio station we're like driving. We had to get like these FEMA cards that basically said that you were like a like an essential worker to like go to. It was the most bizarre thing. People are freaking out. It was like, yeah. And I'm like, my contract was coming to an end. I'm like, yeah, let's just go ahead and just roll the dice here and see what happens. So, but yeah, dude. I missed. Yeah, so we didn't get us. Did you guys play San Diego? I can't remember.
I don't think we've ever played San Diego. No,
I don't think you did. I
we
think
drove
you just
down for that, and then that was it.
Yeah, I think you guys just came down because you were playing our like I said, the festival thing, and yeah, that was a bummer. I just think it wasn't selling. Not that it was your guys' fault, but like even like it was Beck and Death Cab and like
yeah, I think I remember that and being like, that's going to be amazing, and then surprised that like
San Diego's I've since moved to Nashville, so I'm in Tennessee now.
Cool.
Which I absolutely love. My family and I, we just moved. Like I have 2 kids, and me and my wife and 2 kids, we just were like, let's just try something new, and we moved out here. But it was like San Diego's a weird city when it comes to shows. I think there's just too much shit happening all the time that.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know.
How's Nashville been?
I absolutely love it here. Absolutely love it. It's just such a different vibe. I mean, I grew up in California, born and raised in between, like I said, San Diego and San Francisco, and all I knew was California. And then I came out here, and it's just like totally, totally different world here in the South. But it's cool, man. It's really cool. Are you in Sydney still?
I'm living in Sydney, but I'm in LA at the moment for a couple of weeks.
Oh, cool.
Just doing some like our tour finished 2 days ago.
Yeah, you guys just finished up, right?
Yeah, just finished up. And then there he is.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Cool.
Yo.
You guys.
So you just wrapped up and now you're in LA or still in LA?
Yeah,
cool.
Just in LA for a couple of weeks.
What's up, Jack? How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Sorry about my tardiness. I still getting a little bit used to not being on tour and being in charge of my own schedule.
No, dude, no worries. Again, I appreciate you being here.
It's nice to see you again.
Yes, I know. I was just talking to Lachlan and just telling him like, yeah, we met like in 2018 maybe when I worked for a radio station in San Diego and you guys did that like acoustic-ish set where you had there was that wood studio and you did like 3 or 4 songs or something like that.
Yeah, I remember it really well. I was talking. Do you remember Marley? I was talking to Marley about it the other day. I was like, because it was like her first one of her first like radio trips with us.
Oh, really?
She's we were just having a good laugh and how much fun we had on that little trip then.
Yeah, because we were talking. You guys were supposed to play our like summer festival thing, and then it didn't end up happening with like Beck and Death Cab. But
breaking, yes. What? Because why? Wait, why did it not happen? I'm trying to remember why it didn't happen.
Do you want the real answer?
Was it bad ticket? What?
Yeah, because Beck and Death Cab couldn't sell the tickets that they expected them to sell.
Yeah,
but
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. It's like almost heritage acts to just realize that you don't have the ticket pool you used to.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut all this out, but it just is interesting because I was telling Lachlan like, yeah, like San Diego's a weird market when it comes to that stuff, and that station we tried to do 3 other shows. Like we had 2 big shows a year. It was X Fest and Rex the Halls, which was the Christmas one, and both of them were always big and sold out, and the bills were always insane. And just as the years progressed, like they weren't booking the bigger artists that I think would sell, and then it just became like we had to cancel so many of them. It was sad. It was like to the point where people were like, "Oh, here's your lineup. Like, is it actually going to happen this year?" Like, yeah. So it got bad, but I don't know what they're doing. They haven't even booked one since. But I'm not there anymore. I'm in Nashville. I moved, and this is my gig from here on out. So, but yeah. So this podcast is about the both of you. I want to know about your individual kind of journeys in music, and then how you met, and we'll talk about the new record, which I love, and the success of the band, and obviously we can chat about your tour that you just did and everything else. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Are you both from Sydney? And did you know each other growing up or anything?
Yeah, we both, all three of us are from Sydney, and all from like, it's called like the Northern Beaches. It's like a specific, just north of the city, maybe like an hour and a bit north. And yeah, we all sort of like, it's it's definitely not like a small town. Like it's still part of Sydney, but
Hmm.
they call it the Insular Peninsula because it's kind of like, if you if you live there, it's very rare that you actually like go into the city because it's beautiful. It's like beaches, and there's like one road in and one road out.
Oh, wow.
So like, so it just means that like everyone who's there usually just like stays there. So everyone kind of knows everybody, and for that reason, it's kind of got a weird small town energy, but not quite.
Hmm.
Um, so we all knew each other just through like school, and like this was also in 2012 or so, when it was like, hey, have you heard of like this type of electronic music? And there was
Hmm.
only like a handful, like me and Alex were the only two people that we knew that liked, that sort of style of music. Everyone was into like indie rock and all this sort of stuff, and other genres, and we were like, hey, we like electronic stuff. And it was like rare to find like another person who liked electronic music. So, and then Jack and I went to school together for same school for a little bit, but a couple years difference. And then yeah, it's one of these things, we always kind of, everyone knows of each other, but we only really, the band was the glue of like, oh, we all know that we like similar types of music and we would like to give making music a go.
Uh-huh.
Band became the glue that stuck it all together.
Amazing. Jack, were you grown? Did you grow up in a musical household at all?
Um, yeah, I not in necessarily a household. I grew up in like a church.
Oh,
So I
cool.
was like always really around instruments. My parents like ran a church, and I'd always like I just always remember like coming to the church after school and like just playing the drums. So it was like always very like surrounded by music,
Hmm.
and I think that's kind of like I guess like yeah, maybe just part of growing up in a church. It carries that. Sorry, can you hear me okay? I just feel like there's been a bit of an escalation in this song.
Yeah, I think they started cranking up the tune a little bit, but I could hear you. Oh,
Okay, great.
they stopped it.
They
uh,
heard me. Yeah, so yeah, always around it. I mean, it's funny that
okay.
Locke mentions like everyone being into indie music because that was me. I was on the other side of the camp. I was yeah, just obsessed with like Kings of Leon and the
Uh-huh.
Strokes and kind of like folkier stuff as well. So when Locke was like, "Do you want to sing on my electronic project?" I was like, "Yeah, okay."
Oh,
Um,
interesting. So you weren't necessarily into electronic at that time.
I just didn't think I understood it. Um,
Okay.
but I'm so glad I do now because yeah, I'm really grateful for Locke and Al for just being like, "Hey, come sing on this thing," because yeah, it's awesome, man. It's such a good vibe.
Yeah. That's cool. I've actually interviewed a handful of musicians that came up through the church because I mean, it's you probably did you play in the church like gospel band like were you in
Yeah,
that and everything? Yeah, it's like I mean you have what like an audience of probably a couple hundred people every single time you play. So you're getting
yeah,
used to not only playing with people but playing in front of a crowd of people. And it's interesting how, I'm sure that was very helpful to you guys or to you when you started bands and started performing.
yeah. I think it already came as such a natural thing because I was doing it since I was like 6. Like I was,
Oh, wow.
I sung like the Christmas carols in the Oval every year, and with my high, really really high voice. I mean, it's still high now. You can imagine what it sounded like back then. But yeah, it's funny. I haven't really thought about it in like a really long time. So it's yeah, nice to be asked that question, I think.
That's cool. And you said drums. Were you a drummer first? Is that your first instrument?
No, I think drums have always been the thing that I could never really play, and I think that's probably why I have such a childish, in whatever the word is, childish obsession with them.
Okay.
I'll leave that to Alex.
Sure. I didn't know because you said you'd come home and drum, so I wasn't sure if that was something that you were like doing actively or when you know, or a hobby. But what was the first instrument you learned?
My friend gave me like a nylon acoustic string guitar at like 7. No, I guess
Oh
that was the
wow.
best. Yeah, I had like a little tape player and one of those like old beatbox drum machines, and that was my introduction into making my own music.
That early, like you said at 7 you got the guitar, and then was it just a couple of years later you kind of progressed with
I think,
with
yeah,
that?
I think the first memory I ever have of like actively creating a song would have been 7, and it was with like the one of the guys in the church band who like brought over this like tape thing, and we wrote a song together. And I was like,
Oh wow.
this is a really amazing feeling. I mean, I don't feel like I've ever told you any of this.
I love that. That's cool. Then you guys are learning something about each other. And did you continue on? I mean, did you play in a band or anything? I mean, prior to you guys meeting?
Yeah, I was in a little indie rock band. We like had some goals, and we were just like, I spent a year after school like trying to break into the Sydney music scene, and I think I reached some goals that I had wanted, and then I was like, cool, I'm going to pack it up. And in between me wanting to pack it up and finishing it, Locke came into the equation and was like, yo,
Oh wow.
come sing on this. And yeah, it's just one of those weird, really serendipitous moments.
Yeah. Did you go to college for music or to university for school or no?
No,
Just the band. You finished high school and you're like, okay, I'm going to do the band thing, and then
yeah,
after that kind of dissolved, you met Lachlan, and then the band starts.
yeah, my
Or
resume looks terrible. But
I don't know. If it came to music, you could be like, you know, we've done all this. We have a Grammy nomination. We've, you know, millions of streams. I guess if you're trying to go into apply for some like accounting job or something like that, maybe.
yeah, I
But
mean, you'd be surprised though. You learn some pretty interesting accounting skills being in a band, watching
oh,
people spend
sure.
your
I
money.
mean, yeah, exactly. You could use a lot of this stuff that you know, business management, travel agents. Yeah, did a lot of stuff. Well,
Yeah.
Logan, what about you, man? Like, how did you grow up in a musical household at all?
No, my family's not particularly musical, like immediate family. I know I started playing music because I think my parents, I got an older sister, and they tried to get her to play some sort of instrument, and they gave her a nylon acoustic guitar as well,
That's cool.
and she didn't take to it at all. She was just like, don't care. So she put it in a cupboard, and I found it. I can't remember. I was probably like 5 or 6, and I found it in the cupboard one day and was like, "Ooh, what's this?" And like tried to like, turn. I was like, "Okay, that does that. If you tighten that, that turns the strings up and makes it go higher and whatnot." And then I broke a string, and I panicked, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in so much trouble. I've just snapped the string on this guitar." So I like hid it in the back of the cupboard again, and like essentially like put my introduction to music on hold for like another year. And I always think about like what would have happened if I've just been like, oh, I broke a string, but like I love,
Right.
I
And it's so
stupidly like
funny
put it
how
back
that
in the
is
cupboard.
because it's like a string costs what, like $1, and like you just assume that it's got to be so expensive. You're like, oh shit, like I just broke a string on this guitar. Like, what am I gonna do? I can't tell anybody about it.
Yeah, I am in so much trouble. Oh my God. But yeah, and then so did that. I like just sort of taught myself that for a little bit, and then um, eventually, yeah, mum and dad were like, "Oh, let's like get him some lessons and whatnot." And then it's pretty. It was good. It was like kind of pretty clear from that point on that I think I knew pretty early that I was like, "Oh, this is what I want to do, and this is what I love." Um, and yeah, and so did sort of
Did
like
you have to confess to the broken string? Was it like years later you were like, okay, like here's the guitar and here's the broken string. Like I actually really want to learn this. Like how did it come around?
just crazy. I still have this guitar, like I still have it somewhere, and now it's just like been completely decimated. Like it's had, because now it's like I see it for what it is. It's probably like a $50, $30 like guitar from,
Mhm.
and so I've tried to like I've drilled holes in it to like try and change the sound, and I've like I've completely like dismantled this thing to try and like experiment with a little bit. And I don't think I've ever like fessed up to the destruction of it. No.
Even the string, like, so when you came around, your parents came to you and said, "Hey, do you want to learn guitar?" Is that what happened? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
And were they like, "We're gonna buy you a new one," or were they like, "Where's that guitar that your sister had?" Or
they were probably just like, "Oh, guitars have 5 strings, and so be it."
Oh, so that was it. Okay, so
like,
you just grabbed the one and you just rolled with that
it.
same. Oh, that's so funny.
A guitar teacher eventually was like, "Hey, you're missing a string. Let me quickly fix that for you."
Yeah, let me pull one out of my bag for free.
Yeah, 3 cents.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So with that, like, were you writing music early on too, like Jack was?
Yeah. I think I had like an auntie who was very astute to like could see that I was really, really into music, and she gave me like a little handheld recorder, like almost like one of those like voice memo recorders before iPhones were around.
Yeah.
And I used that. Like I remember we went on like a holiday with my auntie and cousins and whatnot, and she gave me that for the holiday and was like, "Go record some stuff." And I just remember being like, "Oh my god, you can record things! Like I could just sit here and like have an audio record." It was like pretty good audio recording for the time as well. And I was probably like 10 or 11, and that was my first like, oh cool, you can record things and you can write songs and then record the songs and then have a thing that exists. And
do you have any of those recordings, or are they just gone?
Oh, I reckon if I dug really hard I could probably find them. They're somewhere.
You should look them. Like, I mean, how cool would that be? Like some, like artifact of you at 10.
I remember the songs. I remember the songs that I wrote.
Do you really? That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and then from there it was just like hooked completely. And then remember we had a computer that had Audacity, which like the recording software, free recording software, you could do multi-track stuff. And that was like my introduction into like writing on a computer. And
is that when you started to get into electronic music? Like when did that kind of happen? And prior to that recording with the guitar, were you in a band, any band, or?
I never really did the band thing. Like I recorded some songs with some friends in high school that Jack and I actually found recently, and it's terribly cringe. It's me singing, and like I am not a singer. I very much know my place in that respect. And it's me singing. I don't know why I'm singing. I never had any ambition to be a singer.
Jack, would you sing those like when you heard the songs? Was it something like we should let me get a go at these? No, not so much.
Look, I'm sure if we were on the other side of the equation, Locke would say the exact same thing about
your previous project.
Oh man, it was just, I think the sound of those songs are just, they're the time we were in, right? It was the limitations of recording. It was the cringiness of some of the music that we listened to. Like,
well, there's got to be something special there. Like hearing it, you're probably like, oh, like I remember why. Like just even listening back, even for you, Locke, you probably can think like, oh, I remember what I was listening to. I remember what influenced me to write these songs.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they're little time capsules.
Sure.
So, like, it all makes sense. But yeah, I wouldn't want to have them
revisit them.
I mean, there's songs that we wrote 6 months ago that I would die if they came out. So like, you can imagine
really
how much that compounds into, each year you go back into your life.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how that is. And it's like this recorded thing that at any moment, like, somebody could find it if you don't lock it away.
I mean, look, I'm not going to say this, but I'm also going to say it. There are some things on YouTube that could, that could ruin Mansionair's, at least taste making music.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Everyone starts somewhere. Everyone starts somewhere.
There's a really good video of me singing a Bob Dylan song at a pub in Sydney, getting heckled on YouTube. If you ever felt like having a look,
I'm digging for that thing after this.
I've left it there.
That's awesome.
Just because I think it's a really awesome memory.
Yeah, it's like how did you handle the heckling? Did you just keep going?
Yeah, it was fine. He was drunk. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, it's
That's
pretty
funny.
If anything, it made the set more interesting for the audience.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, Locke, okay, so you have these songs that came out in high school, or you're recording with some friends, and then how does it go to, you know, does that project kind of end and then you continue working on music? Like what's kind of the next step there in your journey?
Yeah, I mean, everything I've said so far, like I was 10 or 11 when all this was happening. So like I think I had always kind of resigned myself to being, I was like, I really liked writing. I went to uni to do jazz guitar
for
a little bit. And then...
So you're a really good guitar player then, if you can play jazz guitar and then get into school for it.
I think I was a really good jazz guitarist, but I remember like throughout that time, I was like I mean, you know, the movie Whiplash?
Yeah.
It's just like, everyone's just obsessed. Like uni, music for uni is like not that intense, but it's like a little bit of that energy where it's just like, everyone's just like so hungry. And I remember being like in a jazz ensemble class where you all sit around and you like take turns playing over jazz standards, and looking at all the guitarists would sit next to each other, and you would sort of like, all the guitarists would have a go, and then it would move on to the trumpet players and saxophonists and all sorts of stuff. And I remember just looking at the other guitarists being like, God damn, you guys really love guitar. And I love guitar, but you guys really, really love guitar. And they were practicing 8 hours a day, and I was struggling to like practice for 1 hour a day. I was like, wow, if I've done an hour a day, it's like going to the gym. That's you know, good work.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but what I realized is that I was also writing and making like beats on Reason, the software I had at the time, for 8 hours a day, and not even really realizing that I was doing that. So I was like writing all this sort of stuff and going, oh, I got to find time to like practice guitar, and I'll just do that for an hour so I can get back to like writing and composing stuff. And then at one point I had a teacher who kind of clocked on and was like, hey, maybe you should be doing composition rather than jazz guitar performance. Mm-hmm. And then that was like a switch, and I was like, oh yeah, duh, of course, that makes so much sense. So switched over, and then yeah, did the rest of the degree. Is started interning at a studio, getting coffees and cleaning up dishes, and got to use the studio when the people I was interning for weren't using it. And then that was cool. That was the studio that me and Alex had started hanging out. I was probably like 21 at this point, and that was a studio where it was like, oh, okay, cool, let's like make some stuff together. And then that was a studio that I was like, hey Jack, do you want to come record vocals on this thing that we've made together? And then Mansionair kind of happened from there.
So well, I'm curious, because in the band you don't play guitar at all, right? There's no real guitar. I mean, there's guitars in the recordings, but you don't, like live, you don't play guitar?
I used to, I think, but then we just realized that we were writing all this music where there's three of us, and so much of the music has like 10 layers. So I was like, oh man, Jack kind of needs to play guitar, and then I need to play like bass and synths and all the other stuff going on. So yeah, and then sometimes I play guitar in some songs where we can make it work. But
because unfortunately I haven't had a chance to see you guys live, other than that one kind of stripped down set. And during that set, you were playing keys, or and Jack was just singing. Like there was no one was playing guitar. So I found that interesting that you went to college for jazz guitar, and at least in the set that I saw. So live, I feel dumb asking this question, but live you'll play guitar still, Jack, like through the whole set?
I probably play like 65-70% of this current set.
Okay.
And then Locke plays guitar on 2 songs. It's funny, Locke's such a better guitarist than I am. So it's like, one, I've had to get so much better in order to play the lines he writes. And 2, sometimes I'm just like, can you just play it as well? But I enjoy like being a part of the band. I think singing, the first few years of touring, I just sang. And I liked it, but I wanted to be in it as well, in the the basis of the music. So but I don't know, I definitely still think like guitar is like a real main part of our band. I think it's just always like trickled along the top at the end.
Okay. Yeah, because when I listen to the song, I mean, you can hear guitars, but when I saw you guys, it was, I think Alex is just playing like a floor drum or like a bong. I don't even know what it's called. I'm so bad. And then you were just singing, and Locke was playing keys, and all the songs sounded awesome, obviously. But I didn't like to hear that you were playing guitar. Just for me, it was like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, it's cool. That's rad.
I'd love for you to come see our live show, because it is worlds away from what you've
I've seen. But like, you guys hadn't played San Diego. Like, you were gonna play that show, and then you didn't do it. And then I moved to Nashville. And did you guys just play here on this last tour? No,
we couldn't find a venue. When we rescheduled our tour, we had to knock off the last few dates in Texas and Nashville.
That's what I thought, because I think you were supposed to come through here before that tour got canceled, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not losing my mind. I'm like, did I miss this? Like, what what happened? But we have a venue for you, so you should come play it. We're working with a company right now to kind of get it off the ground, so that'd be killer if you did that. But anyway, back to you all. So you already had the tracks then written, Locke, for what, the first few songs, and then you eventually run into Jack again and say, hey, do you want to come sing on these?
Me and Alex were just making stuff. Like, we weren't really thinking too hard about it. And we literally just made like one song, and that was the one that I sent to Jack, and Jack sung on it, and then we were like, oh, we'll just put it on SoundCloud, because that's what you do. Like, and all our friends will listen to it, and that'll be awesome. And then we watched, like, we put it on SoundCloud, I think on like New Year's Eve, which is like a weird time to put out music, but we didn't care, because we were like, we're just putting out music, like, we're just for our friends and family to listen to. And I remember watching the play count, like the SoundCloud gives you like a daily thing, and it's like, today 3 people listen to your song. We were like, cool. It's like, today, next day 10 people listen to your song, the next day 30 people listen to your song, the next day 100 people listen to your song, the next day 300 people listen to your song. We were like, holy shit, like 300 people in one day listen to our song. And then it started going back down, and it was like, today 10 people, today 2 people. We were like, cool, wow, what a success. And then out of the blue, it jumped to like, today 500 people listen to your song, today 2,000 people listen to your song, today 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. We were like, what is going on? We were getting emails from like people in the music industry being like, hey, I'm blah 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 from blah blah blah, and would love for you to sit down with our team, and can you send us any more demos that you have? And we were like, we don't have anything. Like, this is the only thing we have that we've made. The guy, like, Jack and Alex hadn't actually properly met, hadn't been in the same room together yet.
Oh wow.
It was like,
so this is just like you guys made a song, and it was just like, oh, hey, do you mind coming to sing on this? And then that was it. And then there was no like real thought to having a full band, or was Mansionair the thing yet, or was it just like, oh, let's just throw this up to see what happens?
Alex and I, we were like, we need a name for the band. What do we call it? And then we called it Mansions because we liked the way that it looked. It was always like very like phonetically, sorry, not phonetically, like design wise. It was always very like all caps. It looks very like
slick.
Slick. And then we put out the song, and the song started getting some traction, and then we were like, oh crap, like there's a band already called Mansions. I think they're an American band, and they already had Mansions music at SoundCloud. They already had like, all the things, and we were like, oh damn, like, but we already had a song out, so we were like, how do we have to change it to something similar, because we can't just change it to like a totally different band name and confuse all these people. It needs to be like within the realm. So, but yeah, if you go to our SoundCloud like URL is still Mansions, you know. And we sat around for ages being like, what do we call ourselves? Is it like the Mansion Nights, the Mansion, like just coming up with, and then we were like Mansionair. I'm like, yeah,
okay,
that's close enough. That doesn't feel too out of the realm. That feels okay.
I was just looking on to see if this band still exists, and they have been releasing music, not near to the capacity or to the success you guys have achieved. So, but I was like, is this even a band? Because I'll see that sometimes people like take a name and then somebody comes after them, and it's like they have like 30 followers and you know, haven't done anything for 8 years. But so was that Seasons? Is that the song you're talking about, or is it before that?
No, song called Hold Me Down.
Oh, Hold Me Down. So that was the first one you put out?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay. And does that go to Triple J? Like or was that the next step? Like after, so what happens when it starts doing well? Like doing well on SoundCloud, people are like, hey, let's you know, let's chat. At that point, what do you guys do?
Panic a lot for a long time. Lots of panic. And then we almost signed the rights to the song away, stupidly, accidentally. Like someone was like, we're going to pay you like $5,000. We were like, oh my God, $5,000. They were like, here's a contract, just sign this and we will give you $5,000 for that song. And I almost did, and then went, well, that's really dumb.
Well, what do you know? I mean, how would you know,
such
right?
a horrible thing. It's like,
it was just like people come, you know, sharks in the water sort of thing.
Right, but $5,000 you're like, oh, we just wrote this one song and it's $5,000. Like, you know, that sounds pretty good. I mean, I would imagine that's a really difficult decision to make. I mean, obviously you made the right one, but like at some point you could think like, oh, well, $5,000, like, will we be able to do this again, or like, what's the plan moving forward?
Is this the top? Is this the peak?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know. But yeah, and then I think we were like, okay, it sounds like we need to go write some more songs. So we just spent ages trying. We teamed up. We had met managers and sort of started getting our like music industry education at that point. A lot of trial by fire. And then we were like, all right, let's just keep writing. We wrote for ages. We wrote for like years properly, and like sort of peppered songs out as we went. But like, what was really nice is that our managers, who we're still with now, they were like, don't rush it. Like, go away, learn how to be a band. Like, Jack wasn't formally in the band at that point, and we thought we were going to be like a production duo that had singers come in.
Oh yeah, like feature different vocalists.
Yeah, and then we were like, oh, actually no, like let's be a band. Let's be like the three of us. And then that was sort of the way. Yeah, we had to go back, I think, and do the thing that lots of bands do, which is like cut their teeth playing shows and making mistakes and all sort of stuff. And we had to kind of do that whilst we had like people going, hey, where's the next song coming out? We've got like, you know, record labels being like, hey, you've gone quiet for a year. Like, we want to keep the, you know, momentum, all that sort of stuff moving. but we needed to go back and do all that, like make all those mistakes. I think that that any band kind of goes through, where they're just like playing in the garage and like.
Yeah, that's difficult to have that success and then have people be like, okay, now it's next. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize this is going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, like Locke makes it sound like it was a little, it was fine. We just went back and wrote, like, it was fucking hard.
Oh,
like,
I'd imagine that.
It was, I mean, yeah. And to be honest, I'm kind of seeing it now with the whole not to go into it, but like with this whole viral thing that's like emerged again on TikTok. Like, I feel like I'm quite young, but I feel like, oh, you guys like that have these viral moments. Like, I hope you guys handle it better than we did. Like, because it's like when and like, man, we're still writing about it. Like, Happiness Guaranteed is about us like trying to like put this whole idea of chasing success aside. And it's because I feel like, there's been a strain. I mean, deeply personally to me, I know boys probably feel this too, but I'll speak for myself here, is like chasing this idea like of a rival and like, oh, then I'll be happy, and like, oh, I just need this song to do this and that. And I like the year between releasing Hold Me Down officially, like the label's released, we signed a record deal and they put it out officially, and until we released the next song, it was fucking weird. It was just like, we were trying to figure out how to like hang out with each other and be friends and like make music and like be honest. And like, I personally don't think it was until the song Easier when we were like, okay, here we are, this is us. And that song, I felt like did like a really like it made, it did well. And like, I think that was like a really like nice moment for us to be like, whoa, if we're like honest and open and personal with each other and our audience, like that's the peak, that's the moment that we want to like keep hitting. And yeah, it's funny, man, I feel like I have to remind myself that every day, like still like having albums out and stuff. It's such a weird, we did it all backwards. If we could go back and do it again, I'd like to do all the pre-work before having a song that puts you into the spotlight, because shit got weird.
I've interviewed people that have had those recent viral TikTok moments, and it's like, and I've asked them, I'm like, what do you do? Do you try to chase what you just did? Do you try to regurgitate the same song to try to make it happen again? And it's like, and a lot of people are like, I'm just trying to figure that out. Like, I don't know, because you don't want to write the same song. You don't want to write Hold Me Down again and hope that, oh, it worked the first time, let's see if it'll work again. But then it's also like, I have all these eyes on me. Are we going to be able to land the same way that, we did prior?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? On the guys who manage us also manage Gautier.
Oh, really?
And like, he's a great example. I think he's like what happens when you have like the biggest song in the world, like a generation, the decade defining song.
Yeah, it's like a nostalgic hit for even like 14-year-old kids. It's so weird.
Like he got to the like quote unquote like top of the mountain, and like, what do you do when that happens? And that was happening for him while we were like sorting our early days of our music journey. And his response was just like, I'm not going to go chase that. I'm not going to go try and make Somebody That I Used to Know Part 2. I'm going to go find what I'm curious about in music and use the success of that song to like fund it, basically. And like, I'm going to go off hunting for, something that I'm like really excited about, because that Somebody That I Used to Know came from him going off and finding something that he was really excited about. So he's like, I could either try and like do part 2 of that song, or I could just run the formula again of like going and finding something that I'm interested in and genuinely excited about. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But like, that seems to be like the ethos now for us. It's like, just keep chasing the thing that makes you curious rather than chasing the thing that you think other people are going to like.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is such like a,
I mean, even
such no brainer, but like at the same time, yeah.
Even to expand on that, like I feel like one thing that I've been really trying to realize lately is like, when you like are writing something or creating something and you're being like, I think people will like this, it's all guesswork. It's like, it's all just like going like, people have liked this in the past and maybe this will work. But if you're like making something that you intangibly love and adore and think is awesome, then you're like, that's a knowing, that's like inside you, and like that same thing that makes you tick and like you love, then there's like this human core inside everyone that like there's bound to be other people that appreciate that. And I think that like that is like always like the guiding force. And I think something that we learn over a number of years is like just do what we love, and we get lost along the way, but it's exciting, man. It's like, it's a really, what a beautiful thing to be reminded of. It's like, just do what you know and like grow within that rather than try and guess to what other people, I don't know, again, like I'm seeing it on TikTok where people like make hundreds of like really poppy videos and they all just like fall by the wayside. And like, it's so much harder to guess. It's so much harder to guess. And yeah, I mean,
right. No, it's interesting because like when those things start popping off, like on TikTok, like a challenge or whatever, it's like somebody's going to do something and it's going to take off, and then 500 million people are going to try to emulate it, and it's not going to happen. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're not being authentic about it. This first person was, and that's why it worked out. And then everyone else that's trying to copy it isn't going to be able to achieve what that one person did in the beginning.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's also this trap though that I feel like people fall into where they say they go off and they be authentic, quote unquote, and then it doesn't work. Like everyone thinks it's just like, oh, if I'm just authentic, then the millions of followers and blah 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 will come. And it's like, no, that's
inauthentic.
Right. I guess
that's like, throw out all that stuff. And if you're being authentic, it means you don't mind if the millions of fans come, or you don't mind if it's like, I was talking to a guy yesterday who was like, he used to do music and he doesn't anymore. And we were just talking about like getting off tour and I was like, I'm tired. Like I had fun, but I'm really tired and really run down, play the same songs every night, which is really grateful for that. But at the same time, like there's a reality of where you're like, I'm tired. This is a slog. And he was like, oh yeah, I used to play music a lot, but now I don't anymore. And now he's like a practicing doctor. And I was like, yeah, I bet you probably love music way more now than you did when you were like slogging to try and like get just like, because you just removed the like the feeling of like, oh, I've got to like climb the ladder of music. And he's like, now I just play music because I love it. And I was like, I bet you're enjoying it more now than you ever did when you were like trying to.
Right, because now it's not a job. It's not like something that you have to do. You're like, ugh, like I got to go do this now. It's like to have something. I mean, not that you guys feel that way, but I'm just saying, like, maybe it's because this person at one point, that was what they, like you're trying to invest everything into it and try to do whatever you can to kind of jump through hoops to make it happen. And then it doesn't. And you kind of, I would imagine you kind of get defeated at that point. And like to you guys, because not that you didn't put the effort in, like you obviously did, and you're amazing musicians, songwriters, but that's something that's landing with everybody else, and the work continues, and you continue to bring what people want to the table. But if it's not working, at what point do you just say, I should try something else, and I'll just take this on as a hobby?
Yeah, we had like a really, just between the three of us, like we had a really frank conversation, I think at the start of 2020, where we were like, do we want to do this? Like, we don't have to do this. Do we want, like, are we here because we want to be here, or because we feel like we have to be here because of some like obligatory, contract, or like because we feel like we should or whatever? And we had that real chat where we were like, let's like go and work this out and everyone come back and be honest. And we were like, no, like we want to be here. And I think that switched for us a lot of our like dynamic, because then we were like, we want to do this. We just want to work out a way of like having like being able to like keep the lights on while we do this. But then everyone kind of like, we all like, I felt like we all kind of like relaxed a little bit, because we were like, oh, we're actually here because we want to, not because we feel like we have to. And then I think the music, everything just got more fun from that point onwards.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting what you said, Jack, earlier, was that you know, you're trying to like arrive, like chase something and then finally get there. And it's like, I've heard other musicians say like, you never arrive, right? You never get there. Like you get to a certain point and then it's like, okay, well now I need to get to this point, or I need to get to this point. It's like, if you sign a major label deal, I've also heard like, now you're at the table. You move from the kids table to now you're at the table, but what are you going to do with it now? Like you're not like, okay, now I get to hang up the cleats, you know, we did it. It's like, you always have to keep moving and moving and moving to keep it, you know, stay relevant and active in what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've really wrestled with that big time. Just like, even, I don't know, even coming off tour, like had a day off yesterday without traveling, without doing anything. And I was like resisting the urge all day to like go sit at my computer and start writing, start working on the next thing. And I'm like, can you just stop? Just one day. I was texted Locke about it. I was like, do you feel the same? It's hard. It's like it's hard to stop, because I think naturally as humans we grow, we're changing every single day. And you know, you put that in like a, I don't know, the bloody capitalistic framework and off you go kind of vibe, and it's like it's hard to kind of just sit back and go like, wow, I'm really grateful for what I have. And I think that's something that, I don't know, really had to kind of reflect on.
Sure.
And reorganize, you know, what kind of terms and conditions you offer your life on. Like,
right.
You know, it's yeah, I don't know. I've been reading this book by Bell Hooks called All About Love, and it kind of talks all about like how like at the foundation of life is love, and all the you know, it's stuff we all know and whatnot. But yeah, it's been a really nice reminder to just like kind of, I feel like it's injected a lot more kindness in the way I approach things, and the way I like want to work, and the way I speak to people. And I think it's moving a bit more away from this desire to like make this career something, like, because it already is something. It already is, you know, this beautiful thing that we can talk about with you and we can share with fans. And it was one of the really nice things about being back on the road, is like this tangible connection with like a couple of hundred people every night. It's like, this is beautiful. This is enough. This is fantastic. And yeah, it's funny, man. I think my biggest frustration with this industry so much is that like it just needs to constantly be more and more. And I think we kind of made a tongue-in-cheek comment about that on this record, and you know, it like wasn't like a massive commercial success, but I think it would be ironic if it was. Like, I think we'd probably be like, whoops, what did we do here? But yeah, I don't know. I'm just personally just trying to see things from a little bird's eye view at the moment, and just not like, yeah, just not be try and just not be a dickhead.
No, you aren't. I mean, like I said, it's not like, but even to go home and write and want to write every day, that's just because it's something that you need to do, right? I mean, that's you, and that's what you've been doing. And of course that wouldn't be like a dickhead move. It's just like, I'm going to go home and write because that's what I need to write every day, to keep me sane or whatever. And not that you're writing, you're not, I feel like you're not like going to write just to be like, okay, we got to work on the next thing to put out the next record. It's like, that's probably just what, you know, you have to write because that's what you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to be a have to rather than a should, or some other, you know, expanded reason or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, would you say like obviously Easier was a massive record for you guys. When do you guys leave Australia and land here in the US? Was that with Astronaut?
I feel
like when did your success start to become like, you know, world, you know, like a big, like outside of, you know, what you guys were doing in Australia, and then it kind of blows up to this bigger picture, like, oh wow, like this is something that's really going.
I think, yeah, I think we noticed that with Astronaut. I think when Astronauts started getting like some solid radio play, we're like, whoa, like, let's go to America. Like, because we've been there before and we tried to make waves and stuff. But like, once Astronaut connected on the radio, we were like, whoa, here's like a tour. And you know, every night on that tour, I remember it was 2018, like, I wouldn't even need to sing the words to Astronaut and just hold out the microphone. And like, and you're like, whoa, like, you know, this is amazing. This is the power of radio. This is the power of, you know, like a song that people are connected to. So, yeah, I feel like that was probably the key, that's the switch. And I think that ODESZA collaboration too,
Sure,
kind of validate, I don't know, validate, like, I don't know, just like made us go like, here's Mansionair, we're, you know, and this, like, ODESZA are amazing. Like, it was such an honor to be a part of that record. And yeah, and you know, we've just been chipping away. Like, it's so nice to be in Australia. We had like a really awesome tour there just before we came here, and so yeah, it's like, it's nice. It's sick. Like, it's fun to tour America, and I think it's like, it's nice to. There's just so many people, and there's, you know, there's so many people to play with and play to. So,
but to like land that, I mean, to yeah, you get the radio thing, and it's, I'm sure that was probably the next, I mean, like a milestone for you guys. Like, oh wow, like this is connecting as far as radio goes, and now we're showing up and people are knowing the words to our songs and just kicking the mic out into the crowd and not having to do that. Like, that must, like, what was that feeling like?
it was insane. I mean, you know, we just some of the, you know, some of the crowds we played to, even on like a Shadowboxer tour in 2019, like playing to like 200 people in Salt Lake City. Like, you know, as Locke said, like at the start of this call, like, we're from this like quiet little peninsula in Sydney. Like, playing a show to, you know, all these people in Utah. We're like, what the hell? This is amazing. Like, it's so easy to, like, you know, we've rapped the country like 7-8 times now, and it's like, it's still amazing. Like, it's I had this whole tour just being like, wow, there's people here that like our music, that are here to see us. Like, it's been a real ride, and I think that again, the tangible crowd and audience has been so rewarding versus the internet, versus just being on the internet, because we were like early days internet band, SoundCloud, Hype Machine. So yeah, it's fun to try and turn it into a bit more of a like physical community over just like a numbers game.
Right, because that can get deceiving. I mean, you could look at your Spotify and be like, oh wow, like Easier has 60 million plays. Like, this is like below, if you think about like the amount of 60 million is like such a massive number, but you see it on probably a computer screen and it's like, are people going to be at the show? Is that going to turn into ticket sales and everything else? But obviously it does. But to see those numbers, it's crazy.
I mean, for context, 60 million people is like just under double the population of Australia.
Right. Isn't that, I mean, like, that's what I've talked to people. It's like when an influencer or somebody like shares your song versus like getting a radio spin nowadays. It's like, if somebody that has 12 million followers talks about your song versus a radio station playing it once, like if you get played in, say, San Diego, that's only 4 million people in the whole county of San Diego. And if they even hear it, right? And now you have one person that's reaching 12 million, just like, oh yeah, here. Which, you know, it's just bizarre how the reach of the internet, but to see it translate into ticket sales and everything else is a different beast.
We had that happen one time where we truly understood the power of the internet when one of the guys from BTS listened to our song on, like, wasn't even listening to it properly. Like, it was like on a live stream, and he goes, oh, I like this song. And it was like, just like I got a notification on my phone from Twitter just being like, hey, something's happening on your Twitter right now. Like, just like being like, you're getting lots of notifications about something. I was like, what is happening? We didn't even clock on it. And then we were like, oh, V from BTS has said that not even that he liked that song, just that he was like, oh, what song is this? And that was enough. We were like, okay.
That's so wild. I mean, that's so crazy. Like the power of just one voice saying something about you guys, about your band. But Well, so the pandemic hits. Obviously, you had a tour scheduled. Where was this record in this whole thing? Were you already writing Happiness Guaranteed, or was this some project that began post pandemic?
It had mostly been written between August 2019 and November 2019.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, we added songs and we changed them, but like the core theme of the record to a degree, and the music at least was kind of there. Yeah, which was kind of frustrating because like we had written the song more before the pandemic, and I was like, this is really like tugging on my heartstrings. And then the pandemic happened, and I think everyone was like, oh, it's about the pandemic, I don't want to listen to it. I'm like, no,
Oh right.
but yeah, and then we did the collaborations in 2021, just because we were like, we had all this time, and the record, like we had written a bunch of songs together, and we were still in like lockdown, in and out of lockdowns, and we're like, let's like mix the formula up, let's shake it up. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started. Like we kind of just jumped off tour at the end of 2019, took a month off, and then dug straight into it, went and jammed in a cabin for a while, and then started producing the record. We worked with a guy called John Gilmore, who were like big fans of the way he like engineered like a lot of this 1975 records. And
Oh
so we were
wow.
like sending like he helped us produce a couple of songs, and he mixed the record. And yeah, I mean, it was funny. We had big plans. I really wanted to go to the UK, and we obviously didn't do that, but yeah, it was weird. It was also like uninterrupted. Like it was very like focused work, which I think is why we finished the record really quickly. But then we just waited heaps long to like be able to release it, because everyone was like, don't release music right now.
Right,
It's
right.
mayhem out there.
Because it's like, yeah, well, yeah, you guys waited up until what, a couple months ago, or last month? Was it April, or 2 months ago that you put the record out? So you probably
Yeah.
have been sitting on it for a while. Was it difficult not to go back and tweak things, or was it like, okay, it's done, let's just put it over here and we're not going to look at it or to talk, have anything to do with it until it comes out?
I think it informed like side B. I think we were like, here's the early Happiness Guarantee, like the stuff we we're working on like right after Shadowboxer. And then the collaborations was like, and here's the stuff that we did when we thought the pandemic was going to be over, but it wasn't. And like that way, it kind of like
Oh,
felt like we
sure.
had this like really full circle roundness of of the music that we had been working on. And we worked on so much music. Like we Locke and I started writing with other people, and like Locke's like produced heaps of records and stuff. Like we just had so much time, and it was so fun just to make music because we could. And like
Hmm.
there was no touring, and so you were trying to fill this like hole of like time that we had. So yeah, it was. I mean, I think it's an explanation to why there's so many like solo projects out right now, is because like everyone's bands have like finished their records, and they're like, well, now what do we do?
Right, exactly. And a lot of people, yeah, we're sitting around here. I wrote this whole album not even knowing that it was going to be an album or whatever. And it's like, well, I'll just put it out because it doesn't sound anything like my
Yeah,
band or this. Well, so
yeah.
so were so the collaborations that came, like Strangers and Empty Promise, those were all like pandemic, but pre were more of those first, that first batch of music, or no? Am I wrong?
I'm trying to think. Strangers was written in 2019.
Okay, so not all the ones that have a feature on it are all newer.
Yeah, I think we were just digging into our hard drives, just trying to find ways to like stay entertained and keep
Okay,
making music. So, but the Vandalux, the Kim T, um, what else? Yeah, a couple of those were like lockdown projects
okay,
via Zoom.
that's crazy. Was it weird writing over Zoom?
Oh man, we got so used to it. I mean, our band's always written over the internet. Like there's, I didn't meet Alex when we released our first song. Like it's so easy. Like technology's amazing right now to
Yeah.
just like write a song, to work on something, do some ad prod. Like it's nice being in a room, but sometimes it's also nice just like working on your own, and or elevating someone else's idea without them interrupting you.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on the record. I mean, it's awesome. I love the song Mirror Me. That I listened to that like 30 times. I
Oh
love how
man,
it's
thank
yeah,
you.
it like it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it kind of drops out and it's more mellow, and then it kind of builds up again, and then like I just love the feel to that record.
Thanks, man. I mean, that's one of the oldest, very, very oldest Mansionair songs that we had like never recorded, and
Is that
it
right?
finally, yeah, we like wrote it in like 2015 or something, and we toured it. Like it was like the opener to our show for like 2 years, and we
But you
like never
never
recorded
wrote
it.
the wow, how wild.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
we were just
Yeah, I
like,
think that song's amazing.
yeah, thank you.
You can find like a, I think we played it at South by Southwest. There's like a video online of us playing it in like 2015, maybe.
Really? I got to go find
Yeah,
that.
it's like
I'm sure it
ridiculous.
sounds quite a bit different than the recording, or no?
I think we were really hungover that day we did that show. So
Okay. But like the stylistic, like musically, everything, you guys just kept it as it was when you recorded it?
I
Oh,
think
wow.
when we made it, when we wrote it back then, we were like, oh, this is a bit too bandy, and we thought we were a bit more of like an electronic sort of act. And then when we made this record, when we made Happiness Guaranteed, we were like, oh, there's quite a lot of like band live drums. Like this song actually really, really fits in well with the songs around it.
Uh-huh.
So it was really, and maybe we knew how to make it. We could never record it the way that we heard it live, weirdly enough. So
Interesting.
like now on this record, we finally got it to a place where like, that actually, the recording does the live version justice, which is something that we just could never quite get up to this point.
Well, I love that song, man. I love the record, but that one still really stuck out to me. I'm like, gosh, this is such a good one. I kept going back to it. How interesting that it was one of your oldest ones. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I've taken up way too much of your time, and I appreciate you doing this today. Thank you both so much for hanging out. I've had so much fun.
Thanks,
Yeah, it's been a
man.
blast. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, yeah. I do have one more quick question before I let you both go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Mm.
I feel like I've peppered it through this interview, but
You
I
have.
would
You
just,
definitely have.
yeah, man, do it because you have no other desire to do anything else with your time. Like if you love it and you want to do it because it like makes you feel complete or makes you feel like you're like shining a light onto something that you can't ever talk to anyone about, or just actually just makes you feel better than you did without doing it. That's why you should do it. That's my advice.
I love it.
It's make and make and make and make because you love it and nothing else. Because at the end of the day, you can be as successful as you ever thought you'd be, and you're still going to be sitting back in that room on your own writing songs. That's the point. That's always the point.
I love it. What about you, Locke? Do you have any advice?
Maybe more just for like, it's like a thing I really struggled with for a long time, and a thing that I talk to like a lot of people about, and it seems to be a really common thing, is that like maybe more so in the producer electronic world, is that finishing a song is its own skill, like it's really, really, it's one skill to like start a song and write and like blank canvas and throw tons of stuff at it, but it's a separate skill to go, all right, now I'm gonna like sit with this song and do the meticulous like clicking and finish this thing, and like be okay working on music once that like maybe that initial little like flicker of passion has gone that you get when you start a new idea, and you're like, oh wow, like this is the potential of this idea, like that's ultimately going to fade, and that's okay. And like going and finishing that one little bit of a song is like a hard thing to do. It's okay that it's hard to do, and like practice finishing things, and then it gets a lot easier. Bring it back.